Karibu AMG Realtors. We have specialized in selling of land across the country in areas like Nanyuki, Naivasha, Nakuru, Juja, Kagunda Road, Malindi, and the Abadeas. Contact us today for land investment solutions and have your title deed delivered within 60 days upon completion of payment. SMS AMG to 40299 or call us on +254 748 229 941. AMG Realtors. We don't just deal in land, we deal in value.
Thank you so much, Tim, for joining the We Don't Play podcast show today. How are you?
Doing really well. Favour, this is going to be an awesome time of interaction just based on what you and I have already talked about. So I can't wait to dive in. I think it's going to be really beneficial to, especially to those business owners and those entrepreneurs. So.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so looking forward to this conversation because I know a lot of people are trying to figure out, how do successful entrepreneurs go through the struggle and make it out of the struggle by, avoiding costly mistakes. Because when you hear the word costly, it can be detrimental for a lot of people. And Yeah,
cash flow is everything, especially when the business is young or the business is in a vulnerable position. Look, we have about 150 clients that we serve all over the nation, some of them in the Atlanta area. And some of them were hit pretty hard by the whole COVID. We had a lot of our clients, and our advice to them was to expand your operations, continue to knock on doors. Don't let your marketing go by the wayside. Continue to project your purple cow in the unique way that you serve your client base. And we had a lot of clients that just exploded during COVID. So anyway, but yeah, it's really, cash flow is everything, and you got to make sure that you've got plenty of sales, and you make sure that each sale has profit in it, and that you're managing those profits or that cash flow in a really good way. So.
100%. Thank you so much, Tim, for that. I would love people to know more about you. I would love to hear the backstory. How did you get started? Like, where did it all begin?
Well, I will say, I'll start way at the beginning. I was one of the older kids, but I was born into a family of, there's 11 kids. So my mom and dad loved kids, or they loved making kids, or both. So they, there was nowhere we went that subtle was not part of our language, but I was born with a number of difficulties, cleft palate, and had some really negative things spoken over me, and so I've worked against that. I was in a car accident where my brother died, and I was not expected to live, but I fractured my skull. They didn't expect me to be normal, in terms of being able to use my mind. And I did have to learn to read and write all over again at the age of 15. And so I've lived a life of a lot of challenges. And there's two ways of responding to the challenge, and this is something that it's Dr. Albert, I forget his name, an early 20th century psychologist said that we have two responses to the hardship or the inferior complex that we have. We can use them as a stumbling stone, that we stay in that fear and that low point, or we use it as a stepping stone to step up. And so, I went to college, I graduated accounting, I went to work for PricewaterhouseCoopers. A couple of 2-3 years after that, I started a software company with another guy. We grew it up to about 400 employees, about $40 million a year. Sold it to Intuit, went to work for Intuit to transition all of our clients, and then started a nonprofit. It was like a ministry that I traveled around the world, Central and South America, Africa, Southeast Asia, throughout Europe, Russia, Ukraine, pretty much all over the place, training people in leadership and organizational growth, and how to really grow your business, your organization, how to develop leaders. And people kept asking me, hey, do you offer coaching? I go, well, what's your question? And I would coach them right then and there, not realizing that there's these multi-million-dollar coaching organizations out there. So about 10 years ago or so, I switched from a focus on speaking and ministering through the nonprofit to coaching, and we've since grown our business, and I'm anticipating being able to double our size in the next couple of years. But we've got a sizable coaching program, and we're being super effective at getting results for these business owners. So that's kind of in a nutshell. Said a whole lot, but hopefully that's where people know where I'm coming from on that.
No, that's a beautiful, unique story. And this is why I love the podcast, because every story is unique, is genuine, and it's different. So it brings a lot of, spice to the show, because a lot of people want to know, how did you get there? Because everyone is like, yeah, you're a millionaire, but you don't know how to get to those points if you don't know how to, appreciate the failures. Because I've heard it said over and over again that, millionaires that have made it, they appreciate the failures more than the successes, and some people wonder why.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things that I had to overcome myself. When you asked me, what topic could we talk about, one of the topics was costs and mistakes that business owners make and how to avoid them. And so I know them through coaching a couple thousand businesses over the last 10 years. I also know them because I made most of those mistakes myself, and being able to really promote myself in a unique way. It is called creating a purple cow around my business. What unique advantages does my business, does my service, does my product offer that's different from other people? Why should people choose me instead of my competitors? So I had to get real clear on that, and I was almost bashful, and even some of my confusion of my Christian faith and need to be humble, and I don't want to brag. It kind of got in my way, and I really studied successful people groups, and one of them was the Jewish people. And the way this one rabbi talked about it, it says, well, if you don't want to advertise, you don't want to declare or pronounce God's unique glory being revealed through this business or through this individual. And I go, oh my goodness, I don't want to hide my light under a bushel or hide it under a basket. I want to let it shine. And so I learned through mentorship and through coaching that I paid a lot of money for other people to help me think through that. I grew a successful company, and yet selling my coaching services was a real challenge, and I had to learn how to define my purple cow. A huge lesson I've learned is I started out being all things to all people. Well, who can you help? Anybody that has a business. And that's still true. Anybody that has a business, I can help them. But I began to focus on contractors and healthcare professionals, doctors and urgent care centers and chiropractors. And by narrowing my focus, I widened my reach. By narrowing my focus, I widened my reach. That's one of the huge mistakes that a lot of us make, myself included. And so those are just some of the mistakes I made. I was also very intimidated with being so fearful of people saying no to me. And there's the first 100 clients that we gained in our business, we gained through cold calling. And our business, we created a flourishing coaching business based on a 99.75% rejection rate. Wow. We would land as a client 1 out of every 400 people we called. It was hard work. It was like I had to get into a new relationship to what success was, because it used to be I'd call 5 people and they all said no. I go, well, nobody wants my business. Well, that's a distortion. there's lots of people that want my business. I've just got to knock on enough doors and make it attractive enough and make it easy to do business with me. There's several things that I had to fine tune to make it easy to do business with me. And now, we get a lot of our businesses by referrals, by other companies saying, hey, these guys are a lot, this Tim Redmond is a lot smarter than he looks, So, they're sending people our way on it, and that's really a lot of fun. But I had to go through the hard times of learning the tough lessons to overcome these mistakes.
That's deep. One of the things that you mentioned that really hit home for me, and I'm sure that's also going to be for the listeners, is how you narrowed your audience. You niched down, and then you widened your reach. When people think about niche down, they hear this term over and over again, but they're like, how do you actually niche down? Like, what do you need to weed out? What do you need to filter out to be able to get the best source?
So let's start with this.
Yeah.
What problem do you love to solve? What problem do you love to solve? What problem are you really good at solving that you get results and people say, wow, this really helped me out? And who has that problem? Well, everybody has that problem. Okay, but that's where we begin to narrow down. You have the problem, you have your solution, you have the promise, you want to develop proof. So those are the 3 P's: problem, promise, and proof that you're going to fulfill that promise. And what unique group can you niche down to? It may be spa owners, it may be contractors. We go after home builders and plumbers and HVAC people and people that do construction companies. We're really good at helping them out because we know we've already solved all the problems that they're going to, before they even run into it, we've already solved it because we work with a couple thousand of them already. And so the third step is like, well, what group have you been successful at reaching? What group of people seem to be responsive? My first coaching client was somebody that met me at a conference. I spoke at it. He goes, hey, I want you to coach me, and I want to fly out to my office out in California. And he was doing about $10 million a year at that moment. I just talked to him yesterday, and now his net income is at $10 million. He's up over $100 million. So we've really grown the business over the last several years. And so I began to narrow down my niche towards contractors because contractors were the ones that were most responsive to me. And so it may be grocery stores, or it may be middle managers in high-tech companies, or it may be beginning employees, or it may be college students that are not sure what their career is, or what problem do you solve, and you solve it in such a way that people get such results that they want to pay you for it. And who are those people? And try to narrow it down to where it's almost painful to say, well, yeah, but what about all these other people that want, that could benefit from this? I'm saying focus down on this. We just focus on contractors, but we have manufacturers, we have retail, we have all kinds of other companies calling on us to ask for our help because they've heard about how well we've done with these contractors, or how well we've done with these specialty docs and healthcare, and specialty doctors. So that's kind of a 3-step process that I would go with. And then the 4th step is create an easy sales workflow to make it easy to tell your story. So I just had somebody call me a couple of days ago. It's a friend of mine, and he was selling this product, this really powerful product. Actually, it's a service, but it would like on like a $2 million company, it would like bring an immediate savings of at least $50,000 measurable cash, like immediately to their business. And his first step was to have a 2-hour conversation with the supposed decision makers. He goes, man, it's not working at all. And so I told him about the 99.75% rejection rate. Said, just keep calling. Number one. And number two is it's almost like you're on a first date and you're asking them to marry you. 2-hour conversation is a big commitment. And somebody else doesn't really get well. That's not. I wouldn't recommend that. If you ask my opinion, have a 10-minute discussion to help qualify them to see if they're interested, and give them a promise of how you can help them out enough where they're interested to go into an assessment. The next step can be an assessment of, well, let's see how my product or service can really help your business. And then you dollarize the savings that your product or service is able to bring to the business. And so when you're ready to begin the service or sell the product, make it an easy step, just to make a step towards that, and have a sales workflow on that. I didn't have a sales workflow. I just waited for people to come in, and I'm waiting and praying and hoping that God blesses me and he wants me to get off my rear and start knocking on doors and saying, hey, let me show you the glory of God through the unique way that I solve problems that you've got. Well, what problems? Well, do you have a problem with this, this, and that? Well, yeah, I do. Well, I'll make that problem go away forever. Oh, yeah, well, how do I know you do that? Well, I did that with Tom, I did it with Sally, I did it with Betty, I did it with Rashawn, I did it with, these 25 other people. As a matter of fact, there's numbers, you can call them yourself. And that's what I started doing. Do you think that's helpful to people?
I think that's very helpful.
Is it too abstract?
No, it's not abstract. It's actually very practical. Because I see that some people are afraid of asking. Even in the Bible, it says, like, ask and it shall be given. But people don't ask and they want to take. They want to give. But they're like, okay, I can't give what I don't have. But they don't think about what they have inside. And that limits them from, experiencing what they actually need.
Here's their word. Here's a word for them to consider. Get off your ask.
I like that.
Get off your ask. Start asking. And one of my favorite verses in the Bible is Ephesians 3:20. It says, now unto him that's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we can ask or think. Well, what's he going to do exceedingly abundantly above? What we're asking, what we're thinking. And so part of that is, if you ask, you'll receive. But the word ask there is to ask and keep asking, keep asking, keep asking, keep asking, keep asking, keep asking. There's a tenacity, there's an endurance, there's getting numb to no, there's getting where you're just allergic to people shutting the door and slamming the door and being annoyed at you. The sales process is you call them and you bother them almost to a point of annoyance, and they finally say, what do you want? What is this? And then you tell them, you go, oh, wow, this is interesting. Why didn't you tell me before? So you have to go through the persistence, through the annoyance, till they finally get to say, well, what is it you have to offer that could help me out?
Yeah.
When you talk about somebody's pain, you get their attention. When you talk about your features and you talk about how awesome you are and how awesome your product is, who cares? Everybody does that,
Right.
And so if you can talk about their pain, I may be selling retirement planning, but if somebody's finger's pulled back to the back of their finger, and I'm wanting to talk about long-term thinking and retirement to make sure you're well set 30 years from now, they can't think beyond the current pain they're feeling. They want to say, how do I get my finger so it doesn't hurt anymore?
Right.
Now that's called marketing. That's called understanding the context of what you're going for. And if nobody has that pain that you have a solution for, that's like having an answer for people who are not asking you questions. It's like they're not interested in hearing your answer because they're not asking the question.
Exactly. And that was...
Success requires tenacity.
Yeah.
For you to be able to, you know what a KPI is a key performance indicator. I'm sure you talk about that in your podcast from time to time.
Yes.
And here's a KPI, Favour, that I want to challenge. I'm going to do the ultimate challenge. I'm going to triple dog dare them on this challenge. That's the ultimate challenge.
Okay.
You can't refuse it. So I'm gonna challenge them to make one of their KPIs is how many no's are you getting every day? How many people do you have saying no to you? And if you don't have at least 30 people saying no to you, you have a hobby, you don't have a business. And we would measure, and we made our folks run into at least 150 no's every day. I mean, it was more intense. I don't want to scare the people away, but if you're not willing to make no as part of your KPI, well, I don't want to track that negative. Well, it seems negative, but it's positive because you keep on going. And you just keep on going, because there's only like 3% of your marketplace that are ready to buy right now. They're actually looking right now for what you're selling. So you got to call 97 people just to find the 3 people that are interested. This doesn't mean they're going to buy from you, but just there's only 3% of the people that are really interested in what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So there's that tenacity. Now you may be able to have a way to your script, and that's where we can help you write a script that's very effective, so we can increase those odds. But that's part of it, is they just got to get numb to the no. And so we would require 150 calls every day from our folks, and we would expect them to run into 1 to maybe 1.5 or 2 appointments, and we would need them to call 400 people and maybe get 4 or 5 appointments, and we'll close one of them. And that's how our numbers showed up. Gosh, that's impossible to get a hold of 100 people. Well, so be it, according to your faith.
Mm-hmm.
You think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Henry Ford was known to have said that. But,
yeah.
Just grow a backbone, move in from owning a hobby, having a hobby, to really owning a business that you mean serious. I mean, you're serious, and that business is begging you to pour energy into it, not just for a day or a week, but for like 5 years. I mean, it's called mastery comes from hugging the thorn bush for 5 years. You ever hung a thorn bush? It hurts. Whoa, I don't want to hug that anymore. Well, you got to hug it for 5 years. Well, you're a masochist. You're sadistic. Maybe, but I'm more in love with my wallet being full than I am afraid of receiving a no from somebody. I more want to feed my family and take my wife on really nice vacations than I am afraid of running into no's.
That's deep. That is very deep. I think a lot of people are going to take this in and rewind, because you can't unpack all this in one sitting. Well, hopefully if they listen to it again, but a bunch of people are playing business and they just have a hobby. Well, no, it's a business. That's how we feed our family. Well, quit treating it like a hobby and get after it. And if it takes work, and I know one fella, a friend of mine, very, very successful, he said, I work in my business every day until I don't have to work in my business. Sometimes that's 2 years straight. What about the Sabbath? Well, all those things you can determine. What about family and life balance, and poor people and people that are so sensitive about
about that they don't really want success. They're concerned about balance.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying get unbalanced. Your family is part of the 5 F's. You have a business so you can fulfill your 5 F's. Your faith, your family, your finances, your fitness, and your friends. You want to be able to have that a full cup and a full plate with all 5 of those. And your business can bring you into that. But you've got to be willing to pour energy into it. One of my sons, I got 4 kids, 3 boys and a girl, and my youngest son was starting a fitness business, and it wasn't going very well. And I say, well, you played football in college, you know what it takes here, and you're treating this like a hobby. I say, this business is begging you to pour heart and soul into it. And 1 month he got a goal of reaching 20 people, signing up 20 people. It almost seemed impossible. He just day and night just poured into it, and he ended up signing up 21 people. His business responded to the energy he poured into it. And we're wanting to spiritualize it. The devil's attacking me, or God's not blessing me, or maybe I sinned against this or that, when it's none of those things. Business and money is very spiritual, but it's also very natural too. And it's like, get off your ask and start asking, and keep asking and keep asking, and go after it, and get better with your presentations.
Yeah.
You're going to be a lot better a year from now if you don't give up. I don't go into business with anybody that don't have at least a 10-year commitment to make the business work.
That's true.
I don't want short-term hobbyists. I don't have time for that. Life is too short. Even if I live to be 120 or 140 years old, life is too short to mess my time with anybody that's running a hobby when I'm trying to grow a business. Get serious, folks. Your calling and the impact in your community is desperately waiting for that insatiable passion to pour into beyond your feelings, beyond when it makes sense. Just pour into your business. Your business and your leadership and your influence is starving for your attention. I don't apologize for my passion, Favour. I warned you at the very beginning, I'm going to get excited about this stuff. I didn't know what question you were going to ask, but if you ask that, it's like, well, what mistakes do people make? Get off your blessed assurance. Number 1, get up ready to, it's like, get up with your hair on fire and you're running through the day to just destroy that, and just crush that day. Just make it a difference. What do you think of Thomas Edison after 9,000 experiments? Supposedly he had 10,000 experiments before he finally got the light bulb to really work in any kind of a sustainable way. There's a persistence. Talks about in the Bible. It talks about how blessed those are that endure to the end. Their tenacity, that hold on to your faith, hold on to that, stay steady with it. Pick yourself up and pour yourself into what you've committed to. And if you need some help doing that, that's what I help people do. I don't work with hobbyists, though. I'll leave that to life coaches. That's what you need as a life coach if you're having a hobby. But if you want to grow a business, man, let's grow this business. Let's do it.
This is so inspiring to hear, because when you mentioned the 10-year thinking, we think about Apple, Amazon, Tesla. They have those decade thinking mentalities.
Oh my Jesus. Yes. And many of them were not successful and profitable. Now Apple was initially, but then they kicked Steve Jobs out, and they went into just a leaderless, unfocused existence that they just slowly went downhill. And what did Steve Jobs do? In 1997, he came back in the company and he shut down all the noise, and he got them focused on just a few projects to become the best in the world at getting those products out the door.
Mm-hmm.
And now, they went from almost bankruptcy to being one of the most valuable companies in the world with their market capitalization. Over $1 trillion of value. And you and I are wondering, why didn't we buy a whole bunch more stock than we can afford back then?
Right.
So
this is so great. Thank you so much, Tim, for bringing fire and light, to this episode and to this show, because a lot of people need to hear this. And, we talk about motivational thinking, inspirational thinking, but this is a major thing that comes through. And one of the things I've also come to see, based on listening to people is, people have different types of IQs or quotients. There's the IQ, intelligent quotient, there's the EQ, emotional quotient, there's the SQ, social quotient, and the AQ, which is adaptive quotient. So we have to marginalize them, but some people don't even know they exist.
Right. My AQ is not you talked about the event, or what was your AQ?
They're adaptive, like how do you survive?
Adaptive. Mm-hmm. So that's a really good way to say it. My AQ is adverse quotient. There was a book written years ago on that. But I believe that your adversity is your advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Your adversity, the thing that is meant to enslave you and to pull you down, and the gravitational pull of mediocrity. Your adversity is as Dr. Albert Adler talked about, this law of this maximizing your weakness or growing from your weakness. And he talked about those people that live under that inferiority, but there's another group of people that allow the inferiority or the weakness that they've had to actually empower them and overcompensate for that weakness, where they become strong in the very area of weakness. I mean, I was a few days old, and the doctor said, "Hey, Tim is not really expected to live, and so whatever you need to do to prepare for his passing as this infant." So they ran me to the priest to get baptized in the Catholic Church. And there's nothing against the Catholic Church, and there's many churches that are awesome, and priests that really know the Lord and know Jesus, and it's very genuine, and so I'm very supportive of that. But this priest, who 6 months after he baptized me, declared himself to be an atheist. It wasn't right. But when he looked at the deformity of my cleft palate, my mouth wasn't together, my nose wasn't together, he announced a curse over me. He said, "This boy will never be a priest, and he'll never be a public speaker." And I lived under the power of that curse for many years, very shy, very introvert. And I remember on the inside of myself, when I was 15 years old, going into 16, going early in 16 years, I remember it was like the Lord spoke to me and said, "I'm going to call you to be my mouthpiece to the nations." And he spoke about the very area of my body, of my face that was, quote, deformed or handicapped. He said, "I'm going to make that very place of pain, that's going to be the very usherance, the very issuance of my glory into the..." And I have spoke to groups of 20,000 people around the world. I have, every time I stand up and speak to people, even speaking now, I stand and speak in defiance of that curse to the glory of God. And so I want to challenge the people watching this, Favour, that the thing that you're hiding behind, or the thing that was very painful, it is not for me to understand that pain. I can only imagine. I can only imagine how much that hurt, or the betrayal, or the abuse. But I believe that very painful thing, that adversity, is actually your advantage to propel you ahead. And it's almost like God plays opposites, where the very thing that you thought would never be used is the thing that you overcompensate for, and when you begin to flourish. So I want to really challenge the people is, don't hide behind anything. We need all of you. We're starving for your leadership to come out and play. So I believe that's a word that for you guys that are sitting down, it's time to stand up. For you guys that are stepped back, it's time to step forward. For you guys that have been stifled and quieted, it's time to speak out. And you need to start in the mirror and begin to declare who you are and where you're going. And, this is not a usual podcast, but I feel liberty to go this way. And if you're okay with that, Favour. If I have favor with Favour, then man, we're doing good.
100%. No, this is much needed. This is something that I value, because you said everything right that somebody needs to listen to and take action, because there's no point of listening to this, taking notes, and not applying it, because faith without works is dead, and we don't want to have that. You don't want to beat a dead horse. You want to make sure that you are pushing, you're plunging, you're going forward, you're failing forward, and you can be able to see that what you've learned is something that you can teach someone else, so that they can go through the process faster than you did before.
Excellent. Well, I tell you, Favour, if people are interested in this, we have a process in our where we analyze their business. It's called the growth plan. And in this growth plan, we will establish where they are in their current revenue, where they want to be in 3 years. We create a new business model, a capacity model, that we give them a whole new way to look at their business. We analyze where their market opportunities are and some of their challenges. And we create concrete action items. In the growth plan, there'll be 8 to 10 concrete action items that if they implement those things, it should add, for a typical kind of size business, it should add another $100,000 of profit to their business in the next 12 months. So we normally charge $2,500 for this process. It's very powerful. But if they will email me or go on our website and they say, I want a growth plan, and they leave you a 5-star review for your podcast, or they say, hey, I love Favour, some kind of love for you, and there's a connection where I know that they're part of your broadcast or part of your podcast followers, we'll waive that $2,500 fee. We'll give them the full growth plan, and it's eye-opening, it's powerful, and there's no obligation to continue with us. We're a coaching program. We're a do it with you, but we're mainly a do it for you coaching program. So we'll take those 8 or 10 things and we'll actually implement them in your business with you and for you. Very, very powerful. It's like pulling back the slingshot to really go into that 3-year goal where you can really reach that a huge BHAG goal. And so I would love people to do it. They can email me, Tim at Redmond Leadership, or Tim at RedmondGrowth.com, Tim at RedmondGrowth.com, or go out to the Redmond Growth site. I don't know if you have show notes where RedmondGrowth, RedmondGrowth.com. But fill out the form and just say you're part of that, and we'll get you lined up for one of these growth plans. It's powerful.
Amazing. Thank you so much. This is an opportunity I don't take for granted at all. This is prime. So I'm so glad that you're able to give this opportunity to people who want to scale out and really take that initiative and turn their hobby into an actual business so they can thrive and expand and be that person that they want to be in life. So This has been so helpful, Tim. Thank you so much for helping us and for being part of this. If there's any other thing that you want to tell them, what else you have coming, in the future, please let us know so that they can be able to reach you through that email.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the last word is just, I invited a VIP to this podcast here, and I probably should invite you, but I want to introduce that person. And this person is a world changer. They're massively successful. They're in the process. They're massively successful. They've got a call of God on their life. They're blessed to be a blessing. And that VIP is that person watching this podcast right now. You're the person I'm talking to that's watching this. You're the VIP. I'm telling you, if you're with somebody right now, I want you to just turn to them and I want you to say, hey, you're hanging out with a big shot. So you are a big shot, and go for it. We need you to go for it. Those wounds are not wasted. Those pains will propel you to prosperity. So don't despise the day of small beginnings. I'm telling you, we've got great days ahead.
Amen. Thank you so much, Tim, for being here and for just being part of this amazing conversation. I'm definitely looking forward to bringing you back in the later seasons, and this is not the end of our conversation.
I hope so.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.